My name is Emma, and if you ask me what my boyfriend and I fight about most, you might expect something big like jealousy, money, or trust. But no, we fight about food. Yes, food. Every time we hang out in the city, the mall, a cafe, or even just around our neighborhood, we somehow end up arguing about what to eat. It sounds small, but it's like this tiny thing that keeps showing up again and again, slowly turning our happy days into small storms. It was a Saturday morning. Ryan texted me early. "Hey babe, let's go out today. I'll pick you up at 11. I smiled at my phone. Ryan always liked to plan our weekends, and I liked that about him. We'd been together for over a year, and even with all our silly fights, I knew we cared for each other deeply. I got ready, put on a simple blue dress, and waited outside my apartment. When Ryan's motorcycle stopped in front of me, he smiled wide, wearing his favorite white t-shirt and jeans. "Hey, beautiful," he said. "Hey," I replied, pretending not to blush. We rode through the busy city, the wind brushing against my face, the sound of cars and laughter mixing together. The city always felt alive, and being with him made it even brighter. We reached the mall, parked, and walked hand in hand. "Okay," Ryan said cheerfully. "What do you want to eat?" And just like that, the story began again. I thought for a second, maybe sushi. Ryan frowned. "Sushi again? We had that last week." "Fine," I sighed. "Then what do you want?" "I was thinking burgers. There's that new burger place. I don't want something greasy right now," I interrupted. "Let's just find something light." He crossed his arms and looked around. "Light? Like salad?" "Yeah, maybe salad or soup," I said, trying to stay calm. Ryan chuckled. "Emma, you don't get full from salad. You'll complain again after 1 hour." My voice got sharper. "And you'll complain if I suggest anything else." Why do you even ask if you'll never agree? People around us turned their heads a little, and I realized we were arguing in the middle of the food court. Ryan sighed and rubbed his face. "Fine, let's just eat sushi." But now I didn't feel like it anymore. "No, forget it. Let's just go somewhere else." He didn't say anything for a moment. We walked in silence, the fun mood from the morning slowly fading away. We sat down at a cafe later that afternoon, after walking around without really talking. I stirred my iced coffee slowly while Ryan scrolled on his phone. After a few minutes, he said, "We fight too much about food." I looked at him. "I know, but you never listen." He looked back, his eyes tired but gentle. "It's not that I don't listen, Emma. It's just that you change your mind every time." "That's not true," I said quickly. "You just don't want to eat what I want." He sighed again. "Maybe. Or maybe we're both just stubborn." That made me smile a little, because he was right. We always fought, not because of the food, but because neither of us wanted to give up first. We both wanted to be understood, to feel like the other person cared enough to say, "Okay, let's do what you want this time." "Let's make a rule," he said suddenly. "Every time we go out, we take turns deciding. 1 week you choose, next week I choose." "That's not bad," I said, sipping my drink. "But you can't complain about what I pick." "Deal," he said, smiling again, "but same for you." We shook hands like two kids making a deal over candy. For a while, it worked. The next few weekends were peaceful. One Saturday, I chose pizza. He smiled and ate happily. The next week, he chose ramen. I ate without complaining. We laughed, took photos, walked through the city, and it felt like our fights were gone. But then one rainy Sunday, the cycle returned. We were supposed to have dinner after watching a movie. The city lights reflected off the wet streets, and the smell of food filled the air. "Let's go eat," Ryan said, putting his arm around me. "Sure," I said, "I'm craving pasta." He looked at me with that same face again, the one I knew too well. "Pasta? Again?" I frowned. "You picked ramen last time. Let me choose this time." "Yeah, but pasta is boring. Let's try that new BBQ place." I stopped walking. "You said we'd take turns. It's my turn." "Emma, I'm just saying." No, Ryan, I said, feeling my heart beat faster. You always say you're just saying, but it's always your way in the end. He looked frustrated. That's not fair. And there we were again. Two people, standing in the middle of the city, arguing not about love, but about dinner. We didn't talk much after that. Ryan started the motorcycle, and I sat behind him quietly. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold. He drove without a word, and I stared at the blurry lights passing by. My hands were on his shoulders, but it felt like we were miles apart. When he stopped near my apartment, he didn't even turn off the engine. "I'll text you," he said softly. I nodded. "Okay." He drove off, and I stood there for a while, staring at the road until his red taillight disappeared. That night, I lay in bed, replaying everything, every word, every small fight that didn't really matter, but somehow did. Why did we keep doing this? Why did something as simple as food feel so heavy? Maybe because it wasn't really about food at all. It was about us, about feeling heard, feeling cared for, feeling like we mattered. We didn't talk for a few days. No good morning texts, no late night calls, just silence. It felt strange. Ryan was my best friend, the person I always told everything to, even the boring things like what coffee I drank or what movie I watched. I missed him. On Thursday, I finally texted him, "Hey, I miss you." A few minutes later, he replied, "I miss you too. Can we talk?" We met at our usual cafe that evening, the same one where we'd made our little food rule. He looked tired but smiled when he saw me. "Hi," he said. "Hi," I replied. We both laughed softly, like two people trying to remember how to talk again. "I'm sorry," he said first. "I shouldn't have walked away that night." "I'm sorry too," I said. "I should have just said what I really felt." "What did you feel?" he asked gently. I looked down at my hands. I felt like you didn't care about what I wanted. Even though it's just food, it made me feel small. He nodded, and I felt like you didn't care about what I liked either. I know it's silly, but I just wanted us to agree, to enjoy things together. We both sat quietly, realizing that we weren't fighting about sushi or pasta or burgers. We were fighting because we wanted the same thing, to feel loved and understood. After that talk, Ryan smiled and said, "Let's eat something simple today. No arguments." I laughed. "You choose this time." He thought for a second, then pointed to the small food stall across the street, a place we had never tried before. We crossed the road and sat on a small bench under a dim light. The smell of warm soup filled the air. "Chicken noodle soup?" I asked, surprised. "Yeah," he said. "Simple, cheap, but warm. Maybe that's what we need right now." When the soup came, steam rose from the bowls, and the first spoonful made me smile. It wasn't fancy, but it was comforting. Ryan looked at me. "You like it?" I nodded. "Yeah, it's perfect." He smiled too. Good. I didn't want to fight anymore. Me neither. We sat there in peace, sipping soup, watching the city lights flicker. For once, it felt easy. No pressure, no arguing, just warmth. After that night, something changed between us. We still argued sometimes, but never like before. We learned to laugh about it. When I couldn't decide, Ryan would tease me gently. "Here we go again." And I'd roll my eyes and laugh. Sometimes I'd give in to his choice. Sometimes he'd give in to mine. But most times, we found something in the middle, a place that made both of us happy. And that's what love really is, not winning, not being right, but finding balance in small things. Months passed. One evening, we were walking hand in hand near our old neighborhood ground. The air was cool, and small food carts lined the street. Ryan looked at me and said, "You hungry?" I smiled. "Always." He grinned. "What do you want to eat?" I stopped and laughed. "Oh, don't start that again." He laughed too. "No, seriously, what do you want?" I looked at the street vendors' noodles, grilled corn, dumplings, ice cream. So many choices. "Let's try a little of everything," I said. "You pick one, I pick one." Ryan's eyes lit up. "Now that's teamwork." We spent the evening eating small bites from different stalls, sharing food, laughing, wiping sauce off each other's faces, making silly jokes. And as I watched him smile under the yellow lights, I realized something simple and beautiful. It was never about what we ate. It was about who I was eating with. A few weeks later, Ryan got a job in another city. It wasn't far, but far enough that we couldn't see each other every weekend anymore. The day before he left, we met one last time at our cafe. "I'll come visit when I can," he said. "I know," I whispered. He reached across the table and took my hand. "Promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't fight about food with anyone else," he said, smiling softly. I laughed, tears forming in my eyes. "I won't. You were my best food fight partner." He squeezed my hand gently. "And you were my favorite decision maker." When he left that night, I cried not because of the distance, but because I realized how much those small, silly fights had meant. They were part of us. They were annoying, funny, and real. Months later, when I walked around the city alone, I sometimes caught myself smiling at a cafe menu, hearing Ryan's voice in my head saying, "Burgers again?" And I'd whisper back softly, "Yes, burgers again." Sometimes I'd sit alone at the noodle stall we once went to, order the same warm soup, and remember that night when we decided to stop fighting. The soup always tasted the same soft, warm, comforting. Like a memory that never really leaves. Because in the end, love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And ours, even with all the silly food fights, was real.